the Belated Binge podcast.
He wanted Harry to see this exchange. What's not clear is at this point, what's Dumbledore's motivation for that? We don't know at this moment of the story how far Dumbledore has gone to suspect, Horcruxes, or the connection between Harry and Voldemort. And we certainly don't have any reason to believe that at this time Dumbledore knows or suspects Harry has to die. Unless, of course, he does. Because he's talked to the centaurs. This is the type of the thing that we would normally do over on Theory Corner on Patreon, but this week we're letting everybody in on the theory bit, so let's dig into that a little bit. The way I see it, Dumbledore's motivation for letting Harry see Hagrid pick up the stone could be one of two things, and perhaps a combination of both in some ways. One, he already knows that Harry's going to die to defeat Voldemort somehow. And two, he wants to test Harry and see what he's got, because eventually he's going to have to defeat Voldemort somehow. Shout out to Super Carlin Brothers, by the way, for this a bit of this part of the theory. We know that in Book 5, Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore hires the centaur firenze, or firenze, however you say that, to replace Trewelaney as divination professor when Umbridge very unceremoniously fires her and tries to kick her out of the castle, and Dumbledore says, "No, get back in your room, Sybil." And it's a whole thing. That exchange aside, the hiring of firenze in and of itself suggests a very personal relationship between Dumbledore and the firenze himself. So we know that there was a relationship prior to him hiring him. There had to have been. We also know that firenze is nearly killed by the other centaurs when he agrees to take the teaching post. He's banished from his, I think they call it a pack, and they literally want to kill this dude, which suggests that whatever that relationship that he has with Dumbledore, it's strong enough at this point to make that exile worth it to firenze. We also hear firenze later in this book tell Harry about drinking unicorn blood and the Sorcerer's Stone being in the school. But how did he know? Did the planets tell him that the stone was currently in the school hiding under a three-headed dog? Or did Dumbledore? Could they be that close to share that intimate of information? If so, would firenze tell Dumbledore what the planets foretold about Harry? Which we're led to believe that the centaurs know he's going to be killed by Voldemort. Perhaps even that it would happen in the forest in that book. That's their whole Mars is bright tonight, and the pack yelling at firenze for interfering with what the planets say when he goes and saves Harry from the Quirlish Voldemort drinking the unicorn blood. Some have suggested and theorized that the centaurs, being able to read the planets, know that Harry is going to eventually die in the forest at Voldemort's hand, but they might not know the exact time, so they actually might think that it's happening right then and there, and that firenze just interfered with the planetal prophecy. So it's not that crazy to think that all of these interactions and exchanges between Dumbledore and firenze, and the fact that the two seem to know intertwined bits of knowledge and prophecy and things, that the two they've talked to each other. Because otherwise, why would firenze get nearly kicked to death to go teach at the guy's school? They had to have a relationship. And it's not that crazy. But instead of taking what firenze would have told Dumbledore at face value, oh, this kid's gonna get killed in the woods by Voldemort, Dumbledore instead went into action, and he put Harry and the greater wizarding world in the best position possible for Harry's death to bring the downfall of Voldemort. And that is why he's showing him the stone right here. It's the first test along raising him and grooming him for the task that he's going to have to take on, which is either murder the darkest wizard and serial killer of the age, or be murdered by that same serial killer, essentially sacrificed for the greater good of the wizarding world. So now the testing starts. Dumbledore wants to see what Harry's got. If he puts him in a position to see the stone Dumbledore clearly suspects that Voldemort's going to be coming after, and perhaps already has. What do you mean, Zach? Well, why is the stone in Gringotts in the first place? Maybe there was a previous attempt on it, and Nicholas Flamel entrusted Dumbledore to oversee it being guarded in Gringotts, far from Paris, because otherwise, why would it be in a vault there in the first place and not in the safe little, what's the word I'm thinking of? The safe in the house that we see Flamel in Crimes of Grindelwald. You know, we saw it in that little safe. So why is it not there? Why is it in the vault in Gringotts? But now, Dumbledore. So, wrapping that up, the thought is there was some kind of attempt to take the stone from Flamel's house, and that's when Flamel brought in Dumbledore. Dumbledore put it in Gringotts, but now Dumbledore has reason to believe it's not safe enough in Gringotts and is moving it to Hogwarts. And he's right. Letting Harry witness its removal plants the seed that if someone does break into the vault, will Harry hear about it? Will he put two and two together? Is he curious? Is he clever? Here's test one. We also have to consider that Dumbledore knows the prophecy. He knows that the Dark Lord gave him power that he knows not, and that's the key to defeating him. But what's that power? His mother's love is the protection. But is that all? Is there something else? Perhaps the connection of the minds, the Horcrux inside, Parseltongue. We don't know all of this stuff yet, so maybe Dumbledore just wants to see what foundation Harry has, to set him on the course of being groomed for this mission, and maybe suss out a little bit of what might this power that the Dark Lord gave him be. Does Dumbledore already think that it's just love, or does he have to kind of see what goes on throughout Harry's life to see maybe if there's something else? Maybe he can do something that we don't expect. But seeing the stone removed from the vault, that's step one. Now we watch, and we see what happens next. And we're not the only ones watching. Dumbledore is watching, because it's his plan. If these kinds of theories and speculations do intrigue you, we do a lot more of this over at Theory Corner on Patreon. You can become a patron for these types of bonus episodes, other exclusive content, plus early access to ad-free podcast episodes.
The Belated Binge Podcast.